I also was in a situation 2 years ago where my life just fell apart. Just shattered in ways that I didn't see coming.
This is a space for stories that matter, for real human connection. I'm Danielle Elliott-Smith, and this is Hope Comes to Visit. I'm very excited about our guest today. Our guest today is Aimee Kandrac. She is a speaker, consultant, author, and the co-founder and CEO of What Friends Do. Her work is instrumental to organizing support during life-changing events, and she speaks to organizations about creative ways to help friends and family during times of crisis. Aimee has been recognized as a top 50 mompreneur by Babbel.com and has been and is the first female CEO in the state of Indiana to close a $500,000 funding round. She's been featured in Forbes, Time, Fortune, and the LA Times, Oprah.com, and more. Aimee's the host and producer of the podcast Kitchen Chats, a graduate of the University of Illinois, and enjoys spending time with her two children, cooking and playing in the garden. Let's take a quick moment to thank the people that support and sponsor the podcast. When life takes an unexpected turn, you deserve someone who will stand beside you. St. Louis attorney Chris Dully offers experienced one-on-one legal defense. Call 314-384-4000 or 314-DUI-HELP, or you can visit dullylawfirm.com. That's DULLE lawfirm.com for a free consultation. Aimee, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Danielle, thanks for the opportunity to join you and your audience.
I am so excited to have this conversation because so much of the work you do is heart work, the work that so many of us always want to do. And in reading about the work that you've done, I know it's the work that people want to do and aren't always sure how to help. So I want to start by asking you to explain what Friends Do. And then we're going to get into why you started it and sort of how you accidentally stumbled into this CEO role.
Sure. Thanks. Well, and it's, I tell the story hundreds of times. And this week just happens to be the anniversary week of one of the reasons that we started this.
Really?
So we had a family loved one who had terminal brain cancer when she was 25.
Wow.
And we were the first layer friends who were kind of getting information from the family when they were in the hospital and sharing it with, I say the masses in quotes, but all of the people who wanted to be up to date on what was going on. And as we were sharing that information, the response was always twofold. It was always, first and foremost, please tell the family that I love them and I'm thinking of them. And the second was always, and let me know if there's anything I can do to help. And
isn't that always the question? What do you need? How can
what
I
do you
help?
need? Right. And so what we figured out, though, was if we could give people specific ways to help, they would. And I believe that after all of these years, the reason I continue what I'm doing is because I see the magic that happens and the healing that happens on both sides when people who are in need are willing to accept help. Mm-hmm. And people who want to help are given that opportunity and who are actually plugged in the right way.
To what the actual need is as compared to just floundering with the, do I give you dollars? Do I give you food? Do I do your laundry?
Yes. And I would say there's actually one more, even more critical piece of that, because I agree 100% with what you've said. But the other critical piece for that is, what are they good at?
I love that.
right? So I I actually like to cook, so I don't mind making a meal for someone, but my best friend is like, I can't get dinner on the table for my own family. Why am I trying to put food, like, why am I giving food to somebody else?
Right.
But she's a CFO, and she's like, if I could go and organize all their bills for them and make sure everything was paid, she's like, that's my jam. That's when I feel like I'm in my sweet spot. I can get that done. And I truly believe everyone has a gift that when you can tap into that, again, that's where it feels better to also receive the help when someone's doing something that they love.
And that they're good at, right? Because I don't
Right.
necessarily want the best chef in the world messing with my bills, right?
Correct.
But
and-
I do want someone who doesn't feel overburdened, someone who can't stand doing their own bills. I don't want them having to take on the burden of my bills.
No, and let's go back to this other friend who I love so dearly. She's never cooked for me. There's probably a reason for that, right?
Correct.
Like I don't want someone who doesn't like to cook. And like my family, we have someone with severe food allergies. If somebody doesn't understand that. So I say this, I'm kind of nagging on food, and I don't mean to do that, because food is, I think, one of the first love languages that people think of.
Mm-hmm. Right.
When anything is going on. But knowing that that's just not where everybody, it's not always the need that needs to be filled.
But it is most frequently the let's get a meal train together, right?
Uh-huh. Right.
So how does what friends do work? How does it tap into everybody's love language of giving?
Right. So we actually are in the process right now of launching a brand new service. It's a concierge service, and we are talking to people about what their needs really are.
Okay.
And so the reason I like to start with that is because sometimes you don't even realize that somebody could come and walk your dog and take your trash out and clean your house. And once we can talk through some of the needs that you might have, what friends do, we're a software, right? We're an online software that allows people to have their own personal calendar to post all of the things that they do need help with. And maybe it's a chemo buddy. Maybe it's somebody taking the kids to go buy new shoes because school is starting. And all of this can be laid out on a calendar on the What Friends Do software. And then we engage your social networks. We're looking at the people who you already have in your network. And I think people don't always understand and appreciate how many people would be willing to help them if they were given those really concrete things that they could do to help.
So it's almost like your best friend would come in and say, I know these are the things that Danielle needs done.
That's
and
correct.
then everyone else could tap in and say, okay, I'm going to go walk her dogs. And someone else would come in and say, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean out this closet. And someone else would say, that's brilliant.
So it's all one online space. We also have a spot in there to kind of give updates. That way you don't have to retell the story all the time. Like we used to play that game of telephone, right? Like
Right.
It never gets told the same way. And it's also really exhausting to have to retell the story sometimes. Sometimes as the person or even that front line, it can be emotionally draining to have to repeat it over and over. You get the text message and you're like, oh, shoot, I sent it to the wrong group and I left off these two people. And now, so having all of that stuff in one space, we have a place for donations. We have a place for an integrated Amazon wish list. So all of it can be held in one spot for people to go find it.
How long have you been doing this now?
So we've been doing this for almost 10 years. We actually started it a little bit before that. I started it with my mom. and kind of figured out after a few years that we were best as a mom and daughter and not as business partners. And at that point, switched our business model up. And that's when I raised venture capital funding, was the first female CEO in the state of Indiana to close funding over $500,000. And really pivoted away from consumers and moved into selling our product into healthcare systems and worked kind of alongside a lot of healthcare.
And is that what it does now?
So that's what we are in the process of doing that now and integrating this new concierge service. We actually had some rough years during COVID. The first couple of years of COVID were gangbusters for us. And then we found once we were inside of those hospital systems, workflows changed. Caregivers who we used to give information to help set up our service weren't in hospitals anymore, right? People weren't coming in the same way. And the delivery of services has just changed so drastically in the past 5 years. And so that's why we're in the entrepreneurial word pivoting again, right, and adding this new service level.
What have you found has been the most important lesson you have learned in working with people who are in this place of struggle and loss and need?
The word grief comes up the most as I try to think through the struggle. And that is because we as humans like to think of ourselves as capable. And all of a sudden, your life changes. And it doesn't look like how you thought it was going to change. Or it doesn't look like what you had even dreamed of having your life look like. And you are grieving the way you thought your life was going to be, the fact that you can't care for yourself independently. That's a huge thing. I share the story of a few years ago. It was a Friday night, and my kids were not old enough to drive yet, but old enough for me to leave them home alone. And I went to the grocery store to get some things for dinner. And as I was walking into the store, I got hit by a car. And I ended up with a broken foot and a broken hand. And I've explained a little bit about my business so far and had to have almost a little intervention. My mom and sister walked in one day and they were like, "You need a What Friends Do page. You cannot drive. You can't go get your own cup of coffee. You cannot get in and out of the bathtub or shower by yourself. You have to accept help for this short amount of time." That is the hardest thing, right? And so, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to ask you if you had been in a position to accept the help you are offering to others.
Well, so that's my easy story of it. I also was in a situation 2 years ago where my life just fell apart. Just shattered in ways that I didn't see coming. Over the course of 6 weeks, I became an empty nester, had a cancer scare. It was benign, but I ended up having to have surgery. My husband of 23 years decided he didn't want to be married anymore and filed for divorce, and then subsequently moved out, and we had to put our dream house up for sale.
Oh, Aimee.
And I was shattered. I refused a What Friends Do page because I was so embarrassed, because I was so broken. And I think that's something that happens to a lot of people, is that we often can't face it. And so the fact that we would have to talk to others about it is just too overwhelming. But one of the things, so I also have a podcast, and I've shared a lot of this on my podcast. And my sister has been my rock through everything. And she's a therapist, so I get a little bit of sister, a little bit of therapy.
A whole lot of love.
A whole lot of love. Who knows where the doses lie each day?
Yeah. Some days it's full therapy and 15% sister. Some days all sister.
But very much. But one of the things that she said to me was she was really proud of me that I put my oxygen mask on first. And
so easy to forget to do that.
It is. And it took me, I mean, it's still taking me, like, I'm going to verbally process this again right now with you. Like, what did that mean? What was my oxygen mask for me? And for me, I think it really was the friendships and relationships that I had established already, knowing that I had safe places, knowing that I had safe people who could come in and pick me up out of bed and say, we're just going downstairs for coffee today.
That's it.
People who would come in and say, I am cleaning out your closets because the house has to go up for sale. I don't care what the closets look like. I can get this done. It doesn't bother me.
What would you say to someone who is going through a breaking point like you were at that point, who feels resistant to allowing themselves to be seen at their bottom? To say, it's okay. It's okay. You're not alone. I've been there. We've been there. You're going to be okay, but you've got to let us see you.
So that's one that I don't know that there's any particular words that are right, any particular timing that is right for whatever the situation is you're going through. And whether or not this is the right thing or not, this is what I often say to people. And that is, if the roles were reversed, how would you want me to be behaving? And if you knew that I was going through something, would you want to be here helping? And would you be loving me unconditionally? And the answer is, of course.
Of course.
Now, again, this is where the therapy sister could say, well, that's not the right way to do it. But it's something that works for me in my life.
Well, and I think what's powerful about that is, and this does go to the therapy sister piece, right? That I've had therapists say to me, if this was your daughter, how would you treat her? Right? Mm-hmm. And I can remember a therapist saying that to me at one low point in my life. Would you allow your daughter to put herself as such a low priority? Of course not. I mean, I'd tie her to the bed and I'd make her watch Winnie the Pooh and I'd give her ice cream, right?
Right.
I'd take very good care of her. I would never allow her to abuse herself this way. And yet we frequently forget to put our own oxygen mask on first. And that's an analogy I've heard over and over and over. I remember the first time I heard it. I want to say the first time I heard it, Susie Orman said it when she was talking about finances. And I've since heard it ad nauseum to the point that I'm like, yeah, my oxygen mask first. Right, I got it. And I still don't always remember to do it. I still probably don't do it more often than I do it. But I know it. You know it. I believe this goes to one of the core principles I have in this show, that hearing someone else telling a piece of your story, seeing that someone else can make it through something is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that there are other people who go through hard things and they don't just claw their way through, barely surviving. They find light in it.
Mm-hmm.
That is powerful. The most powerful things we can hear are truths we already know.
And I
but
think
it comes out of someone else.
it does come out of someone else. And I think the other part of it is when we're going through something, we're not always going through it as alone as we like to think we are. Right? And it's almost, you know, when I was getting divorced, my family was losing family. Mm-hmm. When I was moving, my neighbors were losing me as a neighbor. And I forgot, you know, when we have things in life, other people are affected by those changes as well. And again, that healing can happen for both of us when we can go through that grief together, when we can move together through some of these times where you feel like all you can do is crawl your way through, claw your way through, maybe sleep your way through, who knows. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really hard.
What pulled you through?
It was my people. Literally my people who I could call in the middle of the night, who came over and pulled me out of bed, who came over and just did stuff, right? They're like, nope, but I'm here. I'm here. Right? They didn't have to necessarily
take no for an answer.
They didn't take no for an answer, and they used the gifts that they had, right? So some of those people who were lawyers were good at helping me through all the legal stuff. I became such beautiful friends with a woman who I was already friends with, but she ended up being my realtor. And I didn't know the level of friendship that I could have from her through all of this and the support that I needed from her in order to get these things done. Again, people came in with their strengths. Mm-hmm. And that's where I just kind of would look around and I was like, oh, that's done. And they're like, yeah, it was easy for me, right? Because they did the thing that was good for them.
Right. How do you define hope?
Oh, you should give me a like a reminder on that question. You should have given me a warning.
Brad.
Oh, how do I define hope? I think that my definition of hope today is nothing like what it would have been 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 25 years ago.
Would the 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 25 years ago have been the same?
Well,
or would they be different each time?
I think they'd be different each time. And I say 25 years ago because it was more like 27 years ago. I lost my dad. 25 years ago, I guess 20 years ago, we lost our friend. 2 years ago, I was going through my divorce and empty nesting and all of those things. And each time hope looked a little different. I think hope, though, if I want to come up with an overarching theme, It's the golden thread that kind of puts everything through. And actually, it's not even the golden thread. I'm going to share a quick story with you.
I love stories.
While I was going through my life quake and the shattering that happened, I had a visual that kept me going. And it's called a kintsu bowl. And I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of this. And it is this beautiful Asian ceramic dish of many, many, many pieces. And it is soldered back together with pieces of gold. And all I could think about as I was going through everything was, one day I am going to be put back together in an even more beautiful way than I was before.
So funny story. I was sent one when the man I had been with for 5 years passed away 2 years ago, with that story. And I hosted a retreat this past weekend. And I found cards with a picture of one with the story. And I gave them to each of the women who came on the retreat that explained that. So it's funny that you brought that up, because I have always said that I would rather sit in a room full of people who are beautifully broken, that have had to work to put their pieces back together, because the way we get put back together leaves room for the light to come in. And I said that before that bowl was ever sent to me. I would rather sit in a room full of people who are beautifully broken than people who consider themselves normal, because we have to fight to be more self-aware. We have to fight for our patience and our empathy and our compassion, because we had to choose to stay and to be here. And that's what you're describing with that bowl.
Yeah. I love that. And how, I'll just say, of course we had this. Yep, that sounds about right.
Was there a time during any of those experiences 25 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, 2 years ago, that you felt hopeless?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know who I was anymore. Many of those times, like I was really young when my dad died.
I'm sorry.
So thanks. Well, like 20, which is pretty young. And I didn't know what the world would be like without a dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even that loss wasn't the same as my entire identity being changed. I was no longer needed as a mom on a minute by minute daily in person basis, right? I'm still,
yes,
I didn't have my house. I wasn't a wife anymore. I didn't really know who I was going to be.
So who is Aimee?
Aimee is experiencing a life that I didn't know existed. I did not know that life could be happier and easier, and that I still get to learn something new every day, and that I get the opportunity to create the most magical life that I want. I didn't know that was an option. I didn't know that I got to decide how people treated me. I didn't know that I got to decide how I want to show up.
So this version of Aimee has boundaries.
Yeah, yes. This version of Aimee has boundaries, and they are magical. And they're magical. And it's been a little weird. Some people are like, I don't know about this, Aimee. This isn't quite, but
that's not a you problem, Aimee. That's a them
correct.
problem.
Oh, it is. But the thing that makes me so happy is literally at least once a week, someone's like, you're just glowing. And I feel like that.
I get that. This 2.0 version of you is bright.
Yeah.
And shiny and full of energy that isn't tamped down by all of the ands
Right.
that defined you in everyone else's terms. They're all stories you are writing and definitions you are putting behind your name.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's, clearly we don't know each other very well.
No, but this is wonderful.
But it's, I don't know. It's fun to see and to have these conversations and to get to learn not just the story you've had, but the story you're writing.
Well, and I think I didn't know how much. I've read all of the things, right? And I've heard this so many times, and it's so similar to put your oxygen mask on first. But you are the writer and creator in your own story. And I wasn't. I wasn't owning that enough.
Well, I think that there is seeing a quote and then there is the application of it in your life.
Right.
There is, and I used this quote we were talking about it in a previous interview, one day at a time, right? I'm in recovery, and another woman was using it in terms of a business model she has for families who are in a different kind of struggle. Like they need to focus on things one day at a time. All they're focusing on making sure that families are focusing on today. And I get that. When I first used to hear the phrase one day at a time, I thought, stupid sobriety phrase, okay. Until I actually understood its application in my own world. I need to focus on just making sure I'm not drinking today. And until I really applied it to that day and thought, okay, I need to make it through the next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I need to not walk to the store. I need to not go to the grocery store and buy a bottle of wine. I need to make it until I go to bed. I need to get to bed tonight. So it's one day at a time. My goal is not, I'm never drinking again. My goal is I'm not drinking today, right? So until you're actually applying something to your life, when you think someone else has been writing my story, and then you say, oh, no, I get to choose. I'm going to decide what this looks like. And it's once you start to own it, and then someone says to you, you're glowing, and you think, right, that's because I'm owning my story.
Right.
Because you've started to apply it. And you realize that the reason you are glowing is because you are taking ownership for your own life. No one is telling you what to do anymore.
Right.
No one is telling you who you are or what time to get up or who you can be or what job to have.